There are other forms of life as well as ours whose spirit evolution impinges upon the earth. In the realm of folklore, we consistently, my bad, in the realm of folklore, we constantly meet with the idea of intercourse between the human and the fairy kingdoms, of the marriage of a human being with a fairy spouse, or the death of a child by the fairies, an impish changeling being left in his place. We should be rash if we assume that an extensive body of folk belief is entirely without foundation in fact. Let us therefore examine these old and crude beliefs and see whether we can find any grounds for them. If so, what the real nature of the facts may be, and whether they throw any light upon modern psychic phenomena of the kind we are considering in these pages. Remember, this is not to fearmonger. This is to remind you that the power is within you, that nothing can harm you unless you allow it to. You have the final say so. Whatever tries to attack you has no permission unless you give it to. Unless you give it permission to. That's the point of this, is to train your mind, to train you to know that the power is within you. And nothing can harm you unless you give it permission to. There are many of us who have met people who might well be described as non-human, soulless, in that the ordinary human motives are not operative with them, nor do the ordinary human feelings prompt or inhibit them. We cannot but love them, for they have great charm, but we cannot dread them as well, for they spread an infinitude of suffering around them. Although seldom deliberately evil, they are singularly detrimental to all with whom they come in contact. Hello. They, for their part, are unhappy and lonely in our midst. I am talking about psychic self defense, protecting yourself against paranormal attack by Dion Fortune. They, for their part, what's up, bro? They, for their parts, are unhappy and lonely in our midst. They feel themselves to be alien and uncompanioned. Every man's hand is against them, and in consequence, it all too often happens that their hand is against everyone, and they develop a puckish malevolence, though there is seldom calculated evil doing. Gratitude, compassion, good faith, morality, and common honesty are utterly foreign to their natures, as far beyond their conception as the differential calculus. They are not immoral. They are not immoral, however, but simply non-moral. On the other hand, they possess the virtues of absolute sincerity and great courage. In terms of human ethics, they are undesirables, but they have an ethic of their own to which they are loyal, and that is the beauty which is truth, and this is all they know. And as far as their life is concerned, all they need to know. In appearance, they are usually small and slight, possessing unusual physical strength and endurance, but very liable to nervous exhaustion and brainstorms. In social relations, they take violent likes and dislikes. They show a facile and demonstrative affection towards those they like, but quickly forget them. Gratitude and pity are unknown to their nature. Towards those they dislike, they are pettily malicious. And in all relations of life, they are utterly irresponsible. One cannot describe them better than to say they resemble nothing so much as a blend of Persian kitty and a pet monkey. They have the beauty and aloofness and charm of the cat and the amusing, mischievous destructiveness of the monkey. Many human beings hate them at sight. Others are fascinated by them because they bring with them the sense of unearthly beauty and a quickening of the life forces. I have been able to investigate the history of two such beings, and it is interesting to note that both of them were conceived while their mothers were under the influence of drink. There is a very great deal of information available concerning the occult aspect of the incarnation of souls, but not much of the knowledge concerning the actual facts of conception has ever found its way into print. I have given a little in my book, The Esoteric Philosophy of Love and Marriage. I cannot enter into the subject deeply in these pages, for it would be too much of a digression. Digression. Some points, however, it is essential to touch upon for a comprehensive survey of our subject. At the moment of sexual union, a psychic vortex is formed resembling a waterspout, a funnel shaped swirling that towers up into other dimensions. As body after body engages, the vortex goes up the planes. In all cases, the physical, etheric, and astral bodies are involved. The vortex therefore always reaches as far as the astral plane. A soul upon the astral plane may be drawn into this vortex if it is ripe for incarnation, and thus into the spirit of the parents. If the vortex extends higher than the astral plane, souls of a different type may enter this spirit, but such extension is rare, and therefore it is said that man is born of desire, for few are born of anything else. Hold on, my bad. But this vortex may not only extend vertically up the planes, speaking metaphorically, but it may also, under certain conditions, be deflected, as it were, out of the normal human line of evolution, so that it's open and extends, so that its open end extends into the spirit of evolution of another type of life. Under such circumstances, it is theoretically possible for a being of a parallel evolution to be drawn into carnation in human body. Occultists hold this okay. Occultists hold that this occasionally occurs, and explain certain types of non-pathological abnormality which are occasionally met with. These non-humans are either adored or hated by their human associates. They have a peculiar fashion. They have a peculiar fascination for certain types of temperaments. The types that psychologists call the unstable. In these types, the subconscious comes very near to the surface. Deep calls to deep, and they are instinctively drawn towards the elemental kingdoms. There is nothing more disastrous than marriage with a non human, for they have nothing in their nature that can satisfy the normal human yearnings for affection and sympathy. The one saving feature in such a union is that grounds for divorce are invariably readily available, for the morals of the non human or those of the barnyard. Power of non humans to endure their enemies is comparatively small, for they are aliens in a strange land when incarnated in human form, and cannot avail themselves of any of the ordinary human resources of mischief. They are in fact singularly defenseless and helpless, and themselves suffer acutely at the hands of society. It is otherwise, however, in their relations with their friends. They seem to have an infinite capacity for inflicting hurt on those who love them, not deliberately or maliciously, but like a child pulling flies to pieces out of idleness, not realizing what it is doing. Obeying the laws of their own nature, they are destructive to beings of the human evolution. Yet, what other laws can they obey? For them to submit to our standards is to deny their deepest instincts. The effect they have upon those who love them constitutes such a well-marked syndrome among the psychic pathologies, pathologies, psychic pathologies, that we must consider it in detail. The person who forms a rapport with a non-human becomes deeply stirred by the elemental forces that find ingress to our spirit through the channel of this wandering and alien soul. He becomes, as it were, drawn away from normal human things and set wandering upon the confines of the fairy kingdom. And yet he can find there no rest for his foot and no sustenance for his soul. The story of the handsome fisher lad and the mermaid is indicative of this condition. She loves him, draws him to her, and he drowns, for he cannot live in the element of water. The explanation of the curious power, both of fascination and destruction, which is exercised by non humans, may lie in the fact that they belong to one element only, whereas in man all four are combined. Any elemental contact is stimulating to us because elemental beings pour forth in abundance the vitality of their own particular spirit, and this vitalizes the corresponding element in ourselves. But if a four element creature is drawn into the spirit of a single element, he is poisoned by an overdose of the one element in which he finds himself and starved of the other three. It is for this reason that mortals in the fairy kingdom, it is for this reason that mortals in the fairy kingdom are always said to be enchanted or asleep. They are never living normally in full possession of their faculties. An equally difficult problem is set to the non human who is drawn in our midst. A single element creature is bidden to control and assimilate an additional three elements for which it has no equipment or experience, and the result is disastrous. But it is not enough that we should merely describe the conditions and state the problems in these pages. Our aim is essentially practical. What then can be done with a non-human has to be faced and dealt with. It must be clearly realized that any mating between a human and a non-human is a hopeless proposition. In the first place, it can only be the preamble to a divorce. Because non-humans are promiscuous in their sexual habits. And secondly, there is nothing in the nature of a non-human that can satisfy the higher aspirations of the human. We must not allow the human form to mislead us as to the existence of a human soul. A non-human is a pet animal, not a fellow creature. That, frankly, it is the only possible ground upon which they can be approached. If we expect no more of them than we should of a pet bird, if we manage them as we would manage a kitten, we have got as near to the solution of the problem as we are ever likely to get until the dark angel mercifully restores them to their own kingdom, a mercy seldom long delayed. For non-humans do not make old bones. Human beings may also come in touch with elemental beings by themselves venturing into the spheres of elemental life. Such contacts need not necessarily be harmful to either kingdom, provided those who enter them know what they are about. In fact, such associations are frequently entered into by occultists in the course of their work and researches. But it is an undertaking for the advanced initiate only, not for neophytes. There are cases, however, where such an association may lead to harm. The human partner in the association may be ill equipped or ill adapted for the undertaking. He may have ventured out beyond his depth, having picked up a formula from some more experienced occultist and used it without proper preparation. Or again, it is not uncommon to find people who have brought through from previous incarnations a natural aptitude for getting into touch with the elemental kingdoms. In such cases, it may occur that an elemental who has had experience or relations with human beings may deliberately get in touch with them. This is in every way undesirable, for the elemental has not got the knowledge of human conditions necessarily to enable it to avoid its new friend. In any case, what's up, Mr. D Gas? It's good to see you too. In any case, elementals have got a one-way intelligence, and it is not well that they should be senior partners in any alliance with human beings. The whole question of elemental contacts, as exceedingly fascinating one, is too extensive and intricate to be entered upon in these pages. It has been necessary to refer to it, however, for certain cases of psychic difficulty may be due to inexpert operations on both sides of the veil. These elementals or nature spirits are quite different to the controls with whom spiritualistic circles come into touch. The spiritualistic movement is highly organized on the inner planes, and promiscuous controlling is not permitted. Controls have, in fact, to set for development in just the same way that mediums do. And there is invariably some experienced entity within call who can come to the assistance of the circle if all is not going well. Western occultism was thoroughly disorganized and broken up by centuries of persecution. Its inner plane conditions, consequently, present many tangles and gaps even to this day. It is nothing like a well it is nothing like as well organized as the spiritualistic spirit. The great orders have their definite contacts and work strictly within them, keeping a firm hand on neophytes. Outside the orders, there is a good deal of chaos and banditry, and it is unwise to venture far save in the company of an experienced occultist who understands the technique of the methods employed. There are many people for whom the Diva Kingdom, as the spirit which the elementals share with the nature spirits is sometimes called, has a great fascination. And they try by meditation and ritual to get in touch with it. In my opinion, it is decidedly risky for a person who is not an initiate to attempt this work. It is exceedingly apt to lead to mental unbalance, if not to actual obsession. Not that the nature contacts are evil, but they are profoundly disturbing to the human consciousness because they stir those atavistic depths which the psychoanalyst aims at laying bare by means of his technique. Anyone who is acquainted with the literature of practice of psychoanalysis knows that the abreaction is an important factor in this system. It is a crisis and can, for the time being at any rate, upset the patient pretty thoroughly and ex- exacerbate all his symptoms. Exacerbate, exacerbate all his symptoms. When we touch the elemental context, we get the same reaction that is caused by psychoanalysis when the sensor is being penetrated. The sensor, that's like the part of your mind that try to protect you from that type of stuff, paranormal stuff. Persons in whom the subconscious mind is near the surface, such as the artist, the crank, the unstable, and for the matter of that, the genius in any walk of life, love the elemental contacts because they stimulate the elemental forces in their own nature, which are to them the springs of their power and inspiration. But the average citizen whose mental content is organized largely on a basis of repression and compromise in order that he may be a citizen at all and take place in an organized society, is upset by the elemental contact according to the proportion of repression to compromise in his makeup. Compromise is the normal lot of humanity. Repression in the pathology of compromise. The person who has managed to effect a working compromise between the different elements of his nature can afford to allow himself a holiday with the divas without doing anybody any harm. But the person who is repressed will find that they disagree with him actively because they're having the same effect upon him that a drastic psychoanalysis will have. We hear sometimes of the tragedy that results from taking the last dose in a bottle of tonic, of which arsenic is one of the ingredients. This is due to the fact that the bottle has not been thoroughly shaken up each time a dose has been taken, so that the arsenical sediment has all collected in the last dose and reached a poisonous concentration. So it is with the elemental contacts. They are a potent tonic, but they can reach a poisonous concentration under unsuitable circumstances. I have never come across or heard of a case of pathology due to the fascination of the element of earth. It is not an element that usually attracts the amateur experimenter, though the initiate appreciate its value and importance. I have come across cases, however, of sensitive people dwelling in a mountainous country, especially in narrow gulches where there is a paucity of sunlight, who have become obsessed with the fear of the mountains. They do not fear so much that the mountains will fall upon them as that they will close over them, as the cave closed upon the children who followed the Pied Piper of Hamelin. The psychiatrist will, of course, recognize this symptom as belonging to the well-known psychoneurosis of claustrophobia. This, however, does not invalidate my statement, for in my opinion, we may find that in a more intimate knowledge of the elemental kingdoms, we shall come upon the clue to both claustrophobia and agoraphobia. Agoraphobia. Mountaineers also know this peculiar terror with which the great hills can obsess mankind. It is neither giddiness nor mountain sickness, but a curious oppression of the spirits by the overwhelming grandeur of nature. The same force, when not at a poisonous concentration, inspires the passionate love of the hills or of the sea that Kipling has celebrated so glorious in one of his poems. The pathologies of the element of water may be a fascination so great that a man will walk out into the sea until he drowns. Swinburne had this peculiarity and has immortalized it in several of his poems. Strike out as the heart in us, birds and beseeches, at thirst for the foam. One occasion he was picked up in the open sea by a Briton fishing smack, swimming tirelessly many miles from land, borne on the sea by currents, but oblivious of his danger. Being rescued, he sat upon the deck with a mane of red hair drying in the wind, chanting sea poems to his rescuers, a spectacle that one would have given much to witness. Another curious case of water pathology I knew personally. A very level-headed woman, a schoolteacher, was obsessed by a horror of rough waves. She always declared that if she went on the seafront to watch a storm, the waves made a dead set at her. She lived at a seaside place, but so great was her dislike of the waves that she did not care to walk on the promenade when the tide was in. She was cured of her fear in a curious way. She took initiation into cold masonry and found to her surprise that from that day forth she was free from her fear of the sea. I am not a co-mason and speak subject to correction, but I believe I am right in saying that co-masonry differs from other forms of masonry in that elemental invocations have been introduced into it. The element of earth, as all occultists know, is a very tricky element to deal with. More initiates turn off the path in the grade of earth than in any other. And it is rare to see a ritual of earth worked without someone being dropped or knocked over. It is a quarrelsome element when it is being worked. The operators are apt to bicker and squabble. It is also intimately associated with sex, as is revealed by its symbolism. If an occultist is making a magic circle, and for any reason which is to seal it with the cherubim of the elements instead of the archangels, me neither. That's why I like this stuff, because you always find out something new, and then I'll be like, okay, let me go see what this is, and then I go look and see what that is, and then just open up a whole nother door. I'm gonna be looking for it now, though. But then again, this she Dion, I think she was like she died in 1946, so you know what I'm saying. This book was really like 1800 vibes. See what I'm saying? Like it was really witch hunting going on back then. That's why just the way it reads, it sounds like one of them old school movies. It sounds even older than Harry Potter. You know what I'm saying? That's why sometimes when I be reading, I be like, man, I be trying to keep the energy up, but the words, it's like real rough on my tongue. But if I keep going, I always get to something good though. I notice every chapter always got something good for me if I just finish it. Okay. If an occultist is making a magic circle and for any reason wishes to seal it with the cherubim of the elements instead of the archangels, as is more commonly done, and feels himself unequal to the task of drawing a presentable eagle, the symbolic form of the cherub of earth, he will use the zodiac sign for Scorpio. The evolutionary connection between the snake and the bird is well known to biologists. For long ages before Darwin, initiates used the serpent and the eagle to represent the unsublimated, unsublimated, and unsublimated and sublimated aspects of the life force. The scorpion connects with the serpent through the dragon. I had a very curious experience in my connection with the element of earth. I am betraying no secrets if I say that certain grades of initiation refer to the elements, for the fact is too generally known and too obvious for it to be any more mysterious than the Queen of Spain's legs. See, like stuff like that, like I can just imagine the way her voice sound and the way she talk if I was to meet her in person. You know what I'm saying? To begin with, I have an exceptionally bad head for heights, and as the abyss of height belongs to the element of earth, I obviously have no natural affinity with it. The ceremony went exceptionally bad, even for an earth ritual. Two of the principal officers, husband and wife, helped to maintain its reputation as an contentious element by having a family draw in the middle of the proceedings, and the usual upsets and smashings occurred on a general scale. For the next fortnight, I lived in the midst of catalysm, a catalysm of crockery. I smashed my way through the entire tea sets and all the mantelpiece ornaments. The ornaments just fell off the mantelpiece one by one of their own accord. I actually saw two of them do it. I did not know at the time that the element of air had this sinister reputation. I realized that something queer was afoot, however, and asked my teacher about it. She was much amused, but I was not, because it was my crockery that was supplying the raw material for the phenomena. She advised me to get into sympathetic touch with the sylphs, as the initiation had evidently not been altogether successful. I tried to do this, but I was in London at the time and met with no success. For the elemental contacts, with the exception of fire, cannot be worked successfully in a city. The smashing went on, and I refused. I mean, the smashing went on, and I was reduced to a tin mug and a tooth glass, for I saw it was useless to get any more China until things had settled down. That was supposed to be a sense of humor. She saw herself reduced to a tin mug and a tooth glass. That was supposed to be funny. And it probably was back then, you know what I'm saying? Okay. Then I went away for my summer holiday and found myself on the summit of a high and isolated hill on a day of bright sun and high wind. I was very conscious of the nearness of the elemental kingdoms. The earth seemed full of silver sparkles, which is always a sign that the veil is thin. There was no one present except some friends who were very sympathetic. I faced into the wind and raised my arms in invocation. Suddenly, we saw below us a figure bursting through hedges and leaping ditches and running wildly toward it. We presently recognized it as another of our friends, and when he joined us, he told us that he had felt a sudden rush of power while in the valley and on an overpowering impulse started from the hilltop. Then all of us, without any suggestion of leadership, began the dance of the elements, whirling like dancing dervishes upon that hilltop. Fortunately, nobody was about, but I do not know that it would have made very much difference if they had been, for we were caught up of ourselves, and the earth seemed full of rushing golden flames, lying level in the wind. For days afterwards, we seemed charged with elemental energy by that extraordinary dance. It may be interesting to know that we dance with a circular movement, each revolving on our own axis at the same time, and that we both dance and revolve Diosu, that is, with the sun. All this occurs spontaneously, the tide of the elements catching us up and away. I had never known a more glorious experience. It was indeed the divine elaboration of the mysteries. They was on some real witch stuff, like, like I be hearing people saying I'm a witch, and I be just thinking in my head like, no, you not, because they was really was getting it in, like they was this stuff they doing. It's like next level stuff compared to what people uh, call themselves doing these days. After this, there were no more smashings of crockery. I have already noted my exceptionally bad head for heights. I have found that it is considerably mitigated, temporarily at any rate, by the invocation of earth. I am of the opinion that the curious impulse which causes people for no reason whatsoever to commit suicide by throwing themselves from heights may be due to the same impulses that cause people who are obsessed by the element of water to swim out to sea, as I have recorded of Swinburne. Yes, they was living it to the fullest. I can see, I can see why they had witch hunts. They were like, these motherfuckers gotta go. They doing too much. Well, okay. These apparently cause suicides. Oh, these apparently causeless suicides by water and air, or, in my opinion, a form of union with the God, which is one of the ideas underlying human sacrifice. There are two types of human sacrifice: the willing and the unwilling. The unwilling sacrifice, the prisoner struggling or drugged into passivity, is used not to appropriate the God, as is usually thought, but in order to but in order that his vital forces may serve as a basis of manifestation. I always knew that though. It's to like just use the energy, which I wouldn't advise nobody to do, but I always thought about it like that. Like, okay, so they doing this because the vessel, this physical vessel, is filled up with an abundance of energy. So if you could sacrifice somebody, that's a lot of energy to be used up to manifest. Like she said, to serve as a basis of manifestation, to manifest whatever you're trying to manifest. So when we talk about the quote unquote, y'all know what I'm talking about. The quote unquote um SS's, the Bugattis, right? That's they use all that energy to manifest stuff. Okay, now the willing sacrifice, in which the victim will be either a priest or a devotee of the god, has for its motive the idea of divine union, not altogether unknown to Christian mystics who seek its achievement by living death, whereas the adherents of Juggernaut escape with one brief pain. Yeah, yep. Because that body, these bodies are filled with energy. It's like just to do this. See what I'm saying? That's a lot of energy being used. We take this for granted. We take this stuff for granted, though. You know what I'm saying? We treat it like it's nothing until you die and you leave this body. Then you was like, dang, I ain't even. I have heard so many stories about people talking to people that crossed over, and they say stuff like, "If I only knew when I was alive, I would have did such and such." Like it was this one lady. She when she was alive, she didn't realize how beautiful she was. Or when she passed away and she could see herself, she was like, I didn't realize I was that beautiful. If I was knew I was that beautiful, I would have been doing such and such and such. See what I'm saying? We take this stuff for granted. The European belief of one man, one life, has imbued us with the idea of death as the supreme evil. Therefore, the European very often does not go to his death when he unites with the elements, but his higher self withdraws. But his higher self withdraws from incarnation, leaving his body and soul by a curious kind of intelligent automaton, which deteriorates rapidly. Whatever may be the status of the soul that withdraws, that which is left behind is not nice. I feel, therefore, that it must seriously delay and distort the evolution of the human monad if it turns aside into the spirit of the deeper evolution. It may well be that some of the creatures whom at first sight we might classify as non-humans are really humans who have had a diva phase in their karmic record. There is a very interesting field of research awaiting the person who systematically investigates the past lives of the weak-minded and the mentally deranged. That's interesting. The past lives of somebody who is mentally challenged, mentally, like she said, weak-minded. And I always say that, not to talk about people, but I always say like people who like you lose your mind, it's because you was weak mentally. Not to call them a weak person or to say they not strong, but it's like they was weak mentally, and that could manifest in so many different ways. It could be because of fear. It could be because of self doubt. It could be because somebody told you that you was weak. Yeah, like not being worthy of yourself. It could be just mental stress, always thinking too much. which is another reason why I always stress meditation. You know what I'm saying? Give your mind a break. Chill out. We already go through enough stuff on this daily, day-to-day routine, trying to pay our bills and our rent. So, trying to eat and buy clothes and keep the car running and stuff. Like, and then on top of being in a relationship and having friendships and being in the family, you know, just give your mind a break. Just give your mind a chance to be away from all this stuff. Even give yourself a break from people too. You know what I'm saying? Because most people who go crazy, it's usually because like a heavy load. It's like you said, so much. They got so much stuff going on. It's a heavy mental load. You know what I'm saying? Just give it a break. It's kind of like if you put too much weight on your back, you're gonna break your back. See what I'm saying? If you put too much weight on your mentality, you're gonna break your mind. So take it off. Chill out. It's simple. This stuff's so simple. Yeah, not enough mental bandwidth. Yup. It's just like having a muscle. Like if your arm is too small, you're not gonna be able to carry a certain amount of weight. It's the same, like you said, with the mind. It's the same thing. If your mentality is too small, it's not going to be able to carry a certain. It's only going to be able to carry a limited amount of weight. Versus if you train your mental bandwidth and you expand your mental bandwidth, and now you can do more. See what I'm saying? That's why I'm so fascinated with this stuff because I'm like, man, this stuff is really. When you talk about having an inner power, an inner strength, if your mind is strong, you strong. If your emotions are strong, you strong. You can do what's the word I'm looking for? Having a strong mind and a strong emotional state of being will compensate for you being physically weak. Which at the same time you can always get strength. So it's not like you don't have to be physically weak. But I'm just saying, if you got a strong mind and a strong heart, it'll compensate for your physical self. The pathologies of the element of fire are also rare, though it may be that the aimless, incendiary, incendiary, and pyromaniac belong to this class. I have never personally had any opportunities of investigating this type of case. Algernon Blackwood writes of one of his very interesting story, The Regeneration of Lord Ernie, which is published in his volume of short stories entitled Incredible Adventures. Indeed, this author is exceedingly fond of drawing his inspiration from the Deva Kingdom or Deva Kingdom. I don't know if I'm saying it right. And has some most interesting studies of the subject scattered through this book. An organic geographical unit develops something of an oversoul, and where the differentiation is marked, the oversoul may become a very definite entity. If there are among the inhabitants of the district any who are sensitive to the unseen, they may form either an affinity or repulsion from this oversoul. A great forest has a very marked personality, and there are few white men who can resist its influence, becoming markedly change and dehumanize if exposed to it for long periods without the companionship of others of their race. Natives, on the other hand, seem to enter it and be a part of it. It is well known how trees, I mean, it is well known how often trees are objects of worship in all parts of the world. They have very marked personalities and strong magnetic fields. In the spring, when the sap is rising, even non psychics can often sense the aura of a tree. It can best be seen by getting at a distance of a couple hundred yards and looking at the sky beyond the top of the tree. It's funny that she say that because that's how you can practice to see auras. Like if you want to practice seeing people aura, look behind them. Like she said, right? Getting to the distance at a couple hundred yards and looking at the sky beyond the top of the tree. So like you looking at me, you would look like right here where my hand at. You focus on that area, you'll be able to see my aura. But as soon as you try to look at me, it'll go away. I have done it so many times. I'm like, damn, and I forget, and I'm like, okay, that's right. Stop looking at them. Look around them, and then you'll be able to see it. But it's very faint until you start. The more you practice it, the more you can do these things. But it'll be very faint until you keep practicing it. Then it'll become a natural. You'll just be able to see the stuff. The aura will then be perceived as a whitish cloud, like a patch of lighter colored sky surrounding the top of the tree, and usually swaying gently from side to side. So you don't really notice it because it don't look that much different from the rest of the area around. But a tree is very good to practice on because a tree not gonna be freaking out if you staring at it. See what I'm saying? If you stare at a person too long, you know how people can be. What you looking at? So long, okay. Look at the tree. This is a curious antagonism between elms and humanity. And about orchids, all sensitive persons agree there is something sinister. Tropical vegetation as a whole is over powerful for humanity. Under the tremendous stimulation of the solar fire of the elemental forces are concentrated to a poisonous strength. I am not personally acquainted with the west coast of Africa, but from what I can gather, I am the opinion. I am of the opinion that the elemental forces of the atmosphere made by juju rights, are between them more responsible than the climate for earning that part of the world its sinister reputation as the white man's grave. There are other spots where the climate is equally hot and humid. Burma, for instance, but there is no other spot that produces the same loosening of moral fiber. The only place that is at all comparable to it is the Caribbean Sea, which produces not so much a demoralization as a fierceness and violence quite alien to the racial characteristics of the people who go there. That's the end of that chapter. But it's kind of funny, like it's always go back to the mental state of mind. Every chapter in this book go right back to the mentality. So the best way to have psychic self-defense is with your mentality. You have to believe that you can be attacked to be attacked. It's kind of like what they say, superstition. It's like if you believe that something can happen to you, it will happen to you. Yep, strong mentals. What we just talking about? Elementals. It's even in the word. The elements. Fire, earth, water, earth, elements. Elementals. Mentals. So how do you control elements? With your mentality. Ain't that crazy? But we look at this stuff like it's, some of us be like, you can't do that. That stuff not real. It's in the word. It's in the scene. It literally say elementals. That's crazy, man. I mean, I'm not surprised though, but I just, like I said, I'm just fascinated with all this stuff. And I'm gonna finish reading this. I'm gonna finish this though. How many more chapters we got left? What was that? That was chapter 7. What's the last chapter in here? I think it said chapter 20. Okay, so we got 13 more chapters left before we finish with this book. So it all go hand in hand. The psychic self-defense, the manifestation, you know, trying to create your own reality, uh, astral travel, having out-of-body experiences, uh, reading people's minds, all the psychic phenomena, winning the lottery, all that shit is it come back to the same thing. Mentality. But what made me realize this was like whenever I look at stuff that got something to do with astral traveling and how to having out of body experiences, and if you go and look up people having near death experiences, NDEs, it's a common denominator, and it's always whatever they think is what they get. So, for example, if somebody have a near death experience and they think about going to see a loved one, they instantly be there. If they think about, let's say uh, um, they think about, I'm trying to pick something that's not so personal. But like I said, they think about going to see a loved one instantly. There. Yeah, those NDEs are very instant. It's always whatever they think, it just seems like it happened. Like the one lady when she was just sitting in the darkness, and then she said as soon as she thought about, oh, I'm here because I'm here. Ain't nobody keeping me here but myself. And she thought about leaving, she instantly left. The only reason she was stuck in the darkness is because she thought that's what she had to be. That's the only thought she was having. You see what I'm saying? She popped up in the darkness and she didn't have no other thought but why am I in here? I guess I'm supposed to be in here for whatever reason. She started making up reasons to why she had to sit in the darkness. But as soon as she said, oh, I'm here because I'm here. I don't have to be here. She boom, light. It was light. Just like in the Bible said, let there be light. It was light. As soon as God thought about light, as soon as God spoke about light, it was light. But don't forget your heart. That's the most important part. So when we be talking about manifestations and creating our own reality, we be talking about the mental, which is fine, but the heart is like the power. Like Iron Man got that thing right there. That's the juice. See what I'm saying? But yeah, I like them NDEs. I be on them, and they all got that same common denominator. Love. They get that feeling of love. They don't want to come back. I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. Some of them come back because they feel like they have to do something, and some of them come back because they don't know why they came back. They just didn't want to come back, but they still came back. Well, it's that love feeling. It's those thoughts. You know what I'm saying? They finally realize that your thoughts do create your reality. But we don't see it that way because we here in this 3D and it's like real slow. So the stuff you think about, it do manifest. It just manifests so slow. And then you start thinking about other stuff, which make it even slower and slower. So you want $1 million, you start thinking, as soon as you start thinking about having $1 million, it's the $1 million start to make its way to you. But then we start saying stuff like, we can't have $1 million, and then it go back like this. And then you say, I want $1 million, then it come back. Oh man, you can't get $1 million. We keeping it away because it's so slow that we don't know it's happening. Which is why you keep a positive mindset so it keep coming. So it keep moving towards you. And we on Earth, so it's naturally going you will naturally gonna have thoughts, millions of thoughts. But as long as you keep putting your focus back on that, it'll keep coming here. Same thing with this psychic self defense. People be talking. I be on social media, especially on TikTok. They like, oh, they heard the curses. They put up that little evil eye thing. It's not funny, man, but they put up that little evil eye thing, and they be like, on the little hand thing with the evil eye on it, and they like, you gotta put this stuff up to protect yourself. And I'm thinking in my head, like, you drawing it to you just by thinking about it. Like, the fact that you think somebody trying to put a curse on you is that's you making it happen. Not saying that people don't do these things, because we know people. It's people out here who do stuff like that. They ain't even got to be doing no curses. People just do crazy shit. You know what I'm saying? I got robbed one time. It wasn't because nobody was putting a curse on me. It was just a nigga was outside. He had a gun. He wanted to see what I had in my pocket. So we know people do malicious intent things. I'm not saying that people ain't out here doing stuff they shouldn't be doing. All I'm saying is when you start to think about this stuff continuously, you drawing it to you. So think about something else. And if it is somebody out here putting curses and hexes on people, they won't be attracted to you. Because you're not on the same frequency vibration they on. So they gonna be attracted to somebody else. See? So you got the person, let's say this person right here is the one doing curses and hexes on people, right? And then this person right here is thinking about, I gotta protect myself from these curses and hexes. They gonna meet like this. See what I'm saying? Cause it's all a game. It's called the game of life. It's like a virtual reality game. So they gonna meet to fulfill their story. To fulfill their movie, their video game, their story, they gonna meet. Now let's take another scenario where this person put curses and hexes on people for fun or whatever reason why, I don't know. And then this person don't believe in that stuff at all. Not even a little bit. This was gonna happen. They're gonna go past this person, and then it's gonna see what I'm saying. They're not gonna even gonna bump heads. But all right, y'all, let me get up out of here. I'll see y'all next time. I know my videos be all over the place, but I'm gonna try to do this, but I still be doing them numerology videos too, so I'm gonna just be sliding them in every now and then, but I'm gonna finish this. I'm gonna get this on over with so we can move on to some other stuff. Cause I really want to get on that Neville Goddard book. I wanna do that because I see a lot of people wanna really understand how to create the life they want to create. And I feel like what better way to explain it? Just let me read the Neville Goddard book, and instead of me trying to say what I think he's saying, let me just say what he actually said. And whoever, he's the only one. It's hundreds and thousands of teachers who teach this stuff. Well, peace out. Right on, Mr. D. I'll see y'all next time. Peace and love to y'all.